93 semi-auto magic, and hello everyone. I'm just going to post this URL in one more place. We had a bit of an aborted start earlier, and I had to reset this because apparently it crashed. Anyways. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. For anyone here, I've only got 2 viewers right now, it looks like, which is probably going to go up as I posted the link on my Discord server where we usually get quite a few more. This is an impromptu live stream, which is being done just because I decided to do it for no apparent reason. It is a little bit different, you know, and the reason I say it's different for me is that usually I either post content completely on YouTube that's already set up to be completely edited and professional. When I do things that are less so, it's usually on my Discord server, and then it's fully interactive. I've got lots of different people and things going on, and I kind of keep track of that. I've only used this format of going on multiple services a few times, and it certainly requires a little bit more, you know, sort of thought and processing because although I can kind of see chat, and yeah, we're going to get rid of that little nonsense. I don't even need that. I don't need alert boxes and things. This is why Streamlabs OBS is not completely set up for me, but because I moved out here. But in any case, thank you everyone for joining me. I do have actually something planned, not just... and yeah, we're going to get rid of that. Not just babbling, but I wanted to at least be able to chat a little bit. If you're on YouTube, it apparently is very easy to be, for me to see your comments and respond. The unified chat thing that I was trying to test out, well, Twitch seems to be working. I don't know about Facebook, but that's okay. I don't know how many people here joining are either consider themselves Thelemites or know what Thelema is. If anyone wants to say they don't, that's something you can say in the chat box and I can just address that. Hi there. Thelema is a esoteric, philosophical and or religious system founded by Aleister Crowley in 1904. And the 2 main propositions that come out of the Book of the Law, which was dictated to Crowley in 1904, is do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, and love is the law, love under will. These sound familiar to many people who would know about hearing Wiccans say, do what thou wilt, lest thee harm none, and in fact is the origin of that. It sounds to some people like it would be a very do whatever you want sort of thing. It's quite the opposite. Each person has a singular true will that they must endeavor to find and follow, and in fact it's much more difficult than that. So in any case, we're up to 12 people, so that's good. I will point out at the beginning that these types of live stream events are typically things that I do quite frequently on my Discord server. So if anyone here uses Discord and is not yet aware of the Discord server, it is the best place to get like weekly streams and other content. So I'm going to post that link to our Discord server in here. And I say our Discord server because although I founded the Discord server, it is not just mine. It is a giant group effort. Lots of people contribute on that Discord server. We have things on that Discord server, and I'm not exaggerating, that are on no other Discord servers. We have an artificial intelligence version of Aleister Crowley brought back to the dead. And that's just scratching the surface. But the most important thing is we have lots of lovely people who commit time to making it a great place. So for those of you who are not there, we would recommend you check that out and see and chat with us. In this format, and again, I'm just playing with formats here, it's going to be pretty open. So I am seeing from Facebook and Twitch and YouTube anyone's comments. So as you can see, for those of you that don't know me, I'm going to sip some water. For anyone here who doesn't know me personally, I'm sitting in my backyard in my temple, and you can see the temple behind me. I can kind of get out of the way a bit and show a little bit what that looks like. And I was actually on my Discord and just kind of hanging out with people, and I decided I'd do something a little bit different with my evening. So I decided to do this as a test. And so we're going to start off by, I have things that I can say, as I always do. I am usually not lacking for words, but if anyone wants to ask a question, either on any specific topic relating to esoterica, the occult, or me and anything about what's going on my Discord or my YouTube channel, which is also a thing. For those of you who are not on the YouTube channel, that's another good one. The YouTube channel is a collaborative effort, so it's important. I want to explain this because the YouTube channel is a little bit different than what most people would think. The YouTube channel is kind of the echo of the Discord, in that it's not my YouTube channel. I set it up. But the idea was to allow lots of different people to be able to contribute Thelemic and esoteric content to a YouTube channel, get it published and put up without having to be, running one themselves. Not everybody wants to run their own YouTube channel, and so, they get to post with quality assurance standards. We make sure the posts are decent. Everyone can pretty much contribute by going to the Discord, and if you've got audio, video, anything that fits into esoteric, tarot, Kabbalah, anything like that. We'll get to questions in a second. If anyone has anything they want to contribute to that YouTube, they can. And I'm trying to essentially take, there's lots of big YouTube channels run by big name people. And I want a lot of people to have the ability to contribute similarly with their own, even if they only want to do one thing. And so that's why the YouTube exists. That's why the Discord exists. It's an effort to have more people collaborate on things rather than just having a few big name people putting out things, whether it's to sell a book or just because they're, pseudo famous or whatever. So now that I've essentially discussed some of that, I will actually take questions, and we have a question. What do you think about channeling and connecting with gods and goddesses? That's an excellent question. I will rephrase your question, and I don't do it out of disrespect. I do it out of just, one of the books Aleister Crowley wrote later in his life, it's called Magic Without Tears. And in that book, one of the chapters discusses symbols and the use of symbols in language. And basically, and I'm going to just sit slightly differently. Usually I sit at that angle, but the idea being, your question is fully understood by me. I understand what channeling is. However, there is a slight definition difference that I would use. I would call channeling invocation. And so I will discuss it. That being said, there's channeling in the way I understand channeling usually refers to a process by which someone literally usually has a connection whereby it's usually like channeled writing and that kind of thing, whereby the connection of channeling is essentially fully takes over the body such that the person doing this has no control whatsoever and is essentially possessed in a sense and will just automatic write and things like that. Well, the reason I brought up symbols was, we're using words as symbols. And so when someone says, what do you think about channeling? And then goes on to say connecting with gods and goddesses, I would call that invocation. Although, And we won't get into the next question first because I'm going to answer these one at a time. In terms of invocation, invocation is obviously bringing something into oneself ritually. Inflame thyself in prayer, invoke often. These are things Aleister Crowley has said before he passed away a long time ago. I've been a ritual magician for about 30 years now. And invocation is one of the things I do the most of. Evocation, on the other hand, would be something where someone does an operation of ritual magic to bring a entity, be it a deity or some other entity, into the physical space with you, but separate and apart from you. And usually that would be something like a goetic or other entity or an Enochian entity, and they're usually, not in you, they're across the room. You're inside a circle or whatever system is being used. In terms of invocation, what do I think of it? I use invocation quite often, and I've used it with various deity, and I've used it in terms of other things too. One of the things that has been typically done, the Thelemic, for those who don't know, Thelema has a new year. The Thelemic New Year is March 20th, and around about March 20th, one of the rituals that is typically done by Thelemites is the Greater Ritual, which is the invocation of Horus, which I'd have to go into the whole story of Thelema for that to make any sense. But the reason I bring it up is that there is a ritual that I sometimes do on the other equinox, and that one is Liber Israfel, which is an invocation of Tahuti or Thoth, the Egyptian god of magic, wisdom, writing, and all these sorts of things. And you can actually look up Liber Israfel. It's easily found within the Thelemic corpus. There's a portion of Liber Israfel, which is an invocation for sure of Thoth, Tahuti, and this is a deity who's very similar to like Hermes, Odin, and all those sorts of archetypes, even Prometheus. There's a part at the end where it says lection, which is basically correct, and I'll get into that in a second, but there's a section where it's left blank and says lection. And sometimes when I do the invocation, and I've done this with groups or myself personally, nothing will happen and I'll just close it out. And then sometimes, and I've recorded some of these before, sometimes I'll talk for like 20 minutes about stuff that's going to, advice or things. And, I have gotten good enough, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but I'm just saying the reason I say invocation rather than channeling is I've gotten decent enough at this over time to balance the level of whatever I'm bringing into myself so I can still be relatively in control and aware of what's going on. I don't like black out and wake up the next day not knowing what's going on. But that being said, at that point, sometimes at that section, there's literally no control. I hear the words coming out of my mouth, but they're not being phrased in my mind. And sometimes in the past, we've recorded, the group of us have done these, have recorded them and not listened to it for like a year or 6 months. And sometimes it has turned out to be remarkably and startlingly accurate for what was going to come up in our. So I think it's absolutely a practice that can work. Crowley claimed to channel the Book of the Law, so I think that clearly that's a thing. Next thing, symbols and deities are similar in many ways. I would say yes. In some sense, there's many deities or entities. I'm going to use the word entities, so we're not just focusing on deities that have symbols. The goetic spirits have symbols associated with them or sigils. But again, secondarily, also the person said, there are similarities between these different deities. Crowley has a book called 777, which is essentially a database that has columns. It's based on Kabbalah and Gematria, and if you find the column for Thoth and you follow that through, you're going to see Hermes, Mercury, Prometheus, these other sort of similar ones. And likewise, if you were on a different line, you would see things like Khonsu, the Egyptian god of the moon, or perhaps Hecate and things like that. And finding these similarities can be pretty interesting. So Suzette says, should I count my 50s and 100s, or is it faster to weigh them? I'm going to assume that you're referring to money. And if so, I would say that that's a silly question. But first you should tell me how many you have, because I can't tell you the answer unless I know how many you have. Clearly weighing them is going to require a very specialized device, and if you don't have enough 50s and 100s, you're going to have to spend a lot more money on this device than you're going to need to weigh them versus count them. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to ask, or anything they'd like to talk about? Because I'm just getting started. So let's see if we get any other interesting questions, comments. I'm going to end this on a bang, but until then, we're looking for possible suggestions of people either hitting me with questions, hitting me with quandaries, daring me to do crazy things, which, I am prone to do crazy things, perhaps, occasionally. When I'm not doing my day job, let's put it this way. My day job is an attorney, so when I'm not being a lawyer, I sometimes like to do crazy things. All right, so, the chakra system, I don't like generally just hitting one particular chakra. I would want to discuss the entire chakra system, because the whole key of the chakra system is that they're in balance. And they all have to do ultimately with Kundalini and the flow of energy through the body. And so if you have any particular chakra that's, essentially not working properly, you're not going to be able to have your Kundalini energy will get stuck, essentially. So we're getting good questions. Let me see. Psychedelics. Psychedelics are interesting. I'm not going to, I would use for analogy, Aleister Crowley wrote a lot on the psychology of hashish, pot basically, and he did that a lot in something called the herb dangerous in particular. And in that he basically said that, and I'm one of the few people that I know that actually hates pot, but whatever. But the reason Crowley was using pot in that sense was because he believed that by using a certain substance like that, you could get to a particular place in your mind, which was, although not identical, very close to where you could get with sustained meditative effort. And so by getting that glimpse using a substance, you could later not use the substance and kind of know what you're aiming for. And so I think that's true also with psychedelics. To an extent, I've used psychedelics. I had a pretty crazy 20s, but I would say that my use of psychedelics today, when I do use them, is particularly focused on things like mushrooms and very non-frequent and not for fun. I use it sometimes with ritual. Reincarnation. The Thelemic view on reincarnation is pretty simple. It's essentially part of, so for those of you who don't know a lot about Thelema, they might not really know what the Gnostic Mass is. So my explanation on that is going to be a little bit, I'm just going to shorthand it to say, the Thelemic view on dying and what happens after you're dying is that, like in life, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And further, your will does not end simply because you die. And so the view is very much in line with that, meaning, and there was a flowery part of, there are two, I'll just say it, there are two primary Thelemic organizations. One is OTO, Ordo Templi Orientis, and the other is AA. And in the Ordo Templi Orientis, which is kind of like a fraternal order similar to the Masons, but co-ed, women and men, there is a thing called the Gnostic Mass. And in the Gnostic Mass, there's a very specific part where the deacon, who's one of the officers of the Mass, actually discusses the specifics of what happens when someone dies. And so I thought it would be good to just read that. Unto them from whose eyes the veil of life hath fallen, may there be granted the accomplishment of their true wills, whether they will absorption in the infinite, or to be united with their chosen and preferred, or to be in contemplation, or to be at peace, or to achieve the labor and heroism of incarnation on this planet or another, or any star or aught else. Unto them may there be granted the accomplishment of their wills, yea, the accomplishment of their wills. And so essentially it's saying, whatever you will to happen, it's going to happen after you die. And that seems like a bit of a double-edged sword, because I personally am, we'll see what happens. But it kind of infers that if you are somebody who believes strongly that there's a hell and you're going to burn in it, then you're probably going to. Maybe not. Maybe your will is different. So let's go back a little and look at this. So someone asked to tell me about ritual work. That I could do a lot of. Somebody's like Crowley named with holy. Yes, not Crowley, it's Crowley. Somebody's talking about a Bible passage. I'll just say I know a lot about Bibles and Bible passages. I went to seminary and things like that. So I'll also point out that the portion of the OTO called the EGC, or Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica, or the Universal Gnostic Church, actually has its succession to the Roman Catholic Church during the late 1800s era, and it was before Aleister Crowley. There were a lot of high-level Freemasons that were being kicked out of the Catholic Church for being Freemasons. They were calling them heretics. So they formed the EGC. Later, Crowley ended up incorporating and changing the EGC when he introduced the law of Thelema. In terms of ritual work, somebody asked to talk about ritual work. And yes, by the way, I'll address the Bible quote thing. Number one, know the Bible, not scared of quotes from the Bible. I would say that people choose Bible quotes pretty haphazardly sometimes. There usually are lots of really good Bible quotes. And I'm not going to get into throwing Bible quotes around, but I will say that there is also a large difference between sorcery, mysticism, and magic in the sense of what I'm doing. And so I'm going to hit that a little bit and talk about ritual work generally. As I said earlier, the primary, two phrases for a Thelemite is, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, and love is the law, love under will. And this will, do what thou wilt, is a capital letter will. It is the true will. There is only one true will for each person. Each of us is a unique star. The book of the law says every man and every woman is a star, and we are all unique. But that means that we need to find our own true wills. We cannot find our true wills by copying someone else. And so a lot of the ritual work that we do, hello Phosphorus, a lot of the ritual work that we do, most Thelemites, especially those in the AA, but others as well, the idea is to try to find one's true and unique purpose in life. And usually that can be done through ritual means. There are other ways of doing it. You could use, different forms of yoga, or you could use devotional prayer. We tend to use a synchronistic combination of things. Crowley pulled from Buddhism and various ritual magic and other things. But the whole idea is essentially to find your true will. And it's like, someone might ask, where do you find your true will? Well, the answer is both inside yourself and not. And that is because the process whereby one discovers their true will is obviously has to start with some discipline. And the ritual magic framework, provides some discipline. The vessel of the body is not really ready for the higher self, if you want to call it that, or the holy guardian angel, as Crowley called it, which is yourself in a different, larger view, to come and be able to be in communication with you. If your body's a wreck, if your mind's a wreck, if you're just spiritually a wreck, and you're totally a wreck. So there is a level of discipline involved. But the ritual magic that I do is called the great work. And the great work is to find first my holy, make that connection, or what is called knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel, and thereby to find my true will, my path, and be sure of it. And then follow that path until the very end. And, this is a journey which is very personal, but also sort of universal. It's something that everyone can do. It's not the type of structure where someone is going to be telling you what to do or what to think. And so that's an important thing. I think I've touched a little bit on that, and that gets down a rabbit hole. I mean, I did an entire live stream on my Discord I want to say it was Saturday. That was 1 hour just on the AA organization, which is one of the primary structures by which someone would, perhaps whether they're joining the AA or if they're just using the system, to find their holy guardian angel, essentially climb the tree of life in metaphor, and to make themselves one, in theory, eventually, with the divine, in unity with God, unity with the universe, unity with whatever you want to call it. I will also point out that there are many Thelemites who see Thelema as a religion. Some see it as a philosophy. Some see it as psychology. Some see it as a philosophical framework for life. And because of that, and because of the fact that it's so individual, there are everything from Buddhist Thelemites to Hindu Thelemites, Christian Thelemites. There are people who consider themselves a mix of all of these things. I won't comment specifically on that any further, but the idea being the prime directive, if we're going to talk in Star Trek terms, because why not? I'm a bit of a dork, is that we follow our own true will, we find our own true will, and we don't impede the will of others, and we don't want others impeding our will. And so long as we're not actually making trouble for people and causing restrictive situations for other people and harming other people, that kind of stuff, then we get to do whatever it is that is our true will, and we have to give the same to others. And so that's that second part. Love is the law, but love under will. For those who don't know, a man named Gerald Gardner in the 30s, who was in the OTO and a Thelemite, he was the person that started Wicca. And when he started Wicca, he changed the do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, and love is the law, love under will, into do what thou wilt, lest thee harm none. But anyone who understands the fullness of the two phrases doesn't need to say anything about harming none, because they already know that you're not harming others, unless, of course, they trample on your true will. But you need to know what that is first. So does anyone else have any other questions? This is going pretty well. Like I said, I'm not as used to the format. I'm used to actually people either yelling questions at me or chatting on my Discord in real time. But this is going pretty well. I also wanted to ask, because I was considering reading a poem at the end of this, and the reason I wanted to read this poem, it's an Aleister Crowley poem, is that it is aged well. But I want to ask, and we'll see when for some reason my multi-stream is slowing down here a bit. Maybe nobody's commenting. Certainly is slow. Not getting any new comments on there. Well, I'm going to take a sip of water because that's not going to hurt. The reason I brought up the poem is that I wanted to see very specifically, if you are not at least 18 years or older, please tell me in the comment before I end up reading this poem or not, because if you are under 18, the poem that I have in mind should not be read to you. It is, as I said, Crowley wrote this poem, and I'm not reading it right now. But if you're under 18, when I get to the poem, please quit. Or if you're not going to quit, be warned. This poem that I am going to read later, I'm not saying that now. That'd give away the fun. But I will say that he wrote it in the Victorian era, and it was way too much for them, and it's probably too much for people today. But before we get to that, somebody's got to have some other fun things to talk about. I mean, it's a little bit more difficult. Like, I'm using my laptop in my temple. If I had my phone going for this as well, I could be, showing pictures of things. Oh, that one's a good one. That one's a good one. So thank you. Appreciate it. Like I said, this is an experiment because most of the time I do everything on my Discord or just YouTube. I'm trying something different here and see how it goes. So Scientology, that's a good one. Back in 2020, I have got a very funny memory where there was somebody asking something about Scientology on one of the larger Thelemic groups on Facebook, and I came up with the hashtag "Give Back Our Yacht," which kind of sums it up. But it's the very first two OTO bodies in the North America. First was one in Canada, Agape 1, and then there was Agape 2, which was in Pasadena. And during the time of Agape 2, one of the most interesting, I would say one of the most interesting Thelemites of all time, Jack Parsons lived. And Jack Parsons was, hey there, 93, Zach. Parsons was a ridiculous character, but he was really one of the greatest. I mean, I'm not going to say he's one of the greatest Thelemites ever, but his stories were so fabulous. And for those who don't know, Parsons is the co-founder of JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which makes the rockets that sent during the war and sending people to the moon and probes. JPL's huge. It was co-founded by a Thelemite, and so during the time when Parsons was getting JPL off the ground, he was originally in Agape Lodge 2 in Pasadena, and later he became the body master of Agape 2. And around that time, L. Ron Hubbard joined the OTO for a bit. L. Ron Hubbard, as most people here are familiar, is who started Scientology. And so, there are some similar. There's not really any similarities in terms of the teachings of Scientology versus Thelema. But number one, Hubbard was in the OTO. Number two, he knew Parsons. Number three, I believe it was with Parsons who he had. I know that there was a point where he had a bet with someone that he could create a religion and fool everyone. And I think that was with Parsons. The one thing I would say is that the OTO has a degree system where people go up in degrees, and that he may have taken wholesale to Scientology, although, charging for it instead of actually doing it the way the OTO does, which does have initiation fees and stuff, but they cover costs of what we're doing, and we're not trying to get rid of thetans in your body and that. But the reason why I said in 2020 I had that story about the yacht is, at that point, and this was before Parsons' final wife, L. Ron Hubbard essentially took a bunch of money from Parsons, which meant at that point, because he was the body master, a bunch of money from the OTO, kind of pried Parsons' wife away from him and stole a yacht. So essentially the Church of Scientology owes the OTO a yacht. and some back interest, but there's really no different. There's no similarity between the actual teachings. They're completely different. But that's the connection that everyone would reference. Anyone? Let's see. What is the name of the poem? No, I'm not. Anybody else have anything they want to discuss? We've got a bit of time. And like I said, I wish I could hear everybody too. I know that, and I keep beating a dead horse here. You know, if I was doing this like I normally do on my Discord server, which I do weekly, people would be able to jump in and talk, or, you know, chat easier, audio or video or whatever. But, you know, we're going to make do because this is a different format. So I have to wait for people to ask me things, or I can just ramble. The importance of ritual. In general, the importance of most of the ritual I do, first and foremost, is to build discipline. Secondly, is to remind myself of the great work on a routine basis. Third is to accomplish the great work. And that's kind of broad, but if someone boils down even a simple ritual, what are you doing? Well, the definition of ritual, it's something someone does repeatedly, right? And so there are scripts for various rituals. I'll take, for example, lesser ritual of the pentagram, something somebody might have heard of. So you go through steps with these types of rituals. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to see a script, which is going to include some actions. It's going to see some words, you know, and you're going to have to go through that. Yes, I have tried DMT and LSD, and no, I'm not going into it. I already discussed psychedelics earlier. When you're doing ritual, you're going to have to memorize words. You're going to have to do actions. And so there's some choreography going on there. And as many people who know about, everyone learns differently. And some people learn more by doing, and some people learn more by reading. But in either event, you're going to need to do these things. The point of the ritual work isn't reciting a script like you're in a play and acting out words like you're in a play. We're not doing Hamlet. The idea is to commit these rituals to memory, both motor and mental, to the point where they're so easy to do, because that's not where the action is. The action for the ritual, most all ritual, is mental. Whether it's visualization, passion, energy, you know, which would include the chakras and Kundalini work. All of these things come together. Pranayama, breath work. But you can't be focusing on breathing properly, monitoring your energy levels, your pranayama, your Kundalini, your chakras, your visualization, and all of this, if you're stumbling over words and actions. But on the other hand, going through the words and actions of the ritual not only allows your body and mind to kind of act differently, but it does allow the mind to process data differently, because your brain is partially occupied doing the ritual. I will also say that although there is a split, and some people take the view that ritual magic is just a form of psychology, that is not my personal view based on my experience. Magic is real in a real sense. I have seen things many a time with my own eyes and in groups of people that cannot be explained by rational means. Does that mean that it's forever out of the reach of rational means? Possibly not. It just means that as of right now, science is not caught up enough to understand these things. Again, we've got a chakra question. I'm not going to go through each and every chakra and what they do, but the basic idea is they are conduits. If you look into many of the actual systems where we get the chakras from, we see far more than the 7 chakras that we use today. Most Hermetic and ritual magic use the 7 chakras. There's a lot more if you go to India. But the idea of the chakras is that they are energy centers. And they all have different, essential ways of conducting and changing energy as it flows through the body. Generally, Kundalini is something that's thought to rise. The energy rises from one chakra all the way through, and it would be like from root to crown. And the idea there is that if you have any, points where you're gummed up, and of course there's not of course, but there's a line from the Gnostic Mass, from the priest roll, that essentially covers all of them, because in this part we're talking about the chakras, although in a twist of interesting for someone to think about if they already know the Gnostic Mass, the direction is not what you would think. And that is from seed to root, to stem, to bud, to leaf, to flower, to fruit, do we invoke thee. And those are the 7 chakras. Although in the Gnostic Mass, rather than going from the typical, what you would think a seed would be on the bottom and the other thing would be on the top, it actually goes from top down, because that's the point where the priest is invoking Nuit into the priestess, from up to down. And there's also something to do with where that happens on the proverbial tree of life that you're imagining in 2 or 3-fold in the temple. So what do we have next? Is visualization the most effective method? I wouldn't say anything is the most effective. So with ritual magic, everyone should, if you're going to start doing ritual magic, you need to journal. And the reason you need to journal is your mind is fallible completely. We're either going to exaggerate things or forget things. And much like a lab book for science, we need to be able to go back and look for trends. So if I change a variable, what happened? And so I bring that up because in my journaling day to day, visualization and how well I visualize is one of the variables that I track for every full ritual I do. But so is intensity. So is, if I screw up do I just botch words? Do I, screw up the actual actions? Do I, how do I feel before and after? So, but the intensity is important. Visualization is very critical, but it's like, this is like a chair with multiple legs, and you start having legs fall off and you're going to have a problem. You do need to do the things. And so being accurate, understanding, this is another big one. You're not just reciting random strange words in a language you don't understand. You should understand what you're saying. How can you have passion or energy for something you don't understand? So passion, backing up the words you say by knowledge of what they mean. Research it if you don't know. Visualization for sure. But also some days people just don't have a lot of energy. So did I have enough energy to actually really bring it that day? When I'm vibrating a God name in a pentagram ritual, am I just sort of saying, hey, yeah? Or am I doing a full vibrating to the point where my body essentially feels like it's going to fall over? These are different. So I wouldn't say visualization is the most important, but it is important. It's also tangentially super important if you get into things like scrying. Work with seeing, scrying, things like that. Any visualization practice you get in one thing helps you with another. Yeah, everybody's journaling system is going to change over time. You start off with what you start off with, and you get better over time. And sometimes you'll drop things, sometimes you'll add things. I originally used to journal in paper, and in about, I think I had some early journals when I was very young for some reason, like age 6 to 7, I don't know why. My main set of journals I started around age 13, and the person I was dating in New York City from the mid-90s until 2000-ish burned them all. That's why I either do both now, where I have my paper journals and then I type them up, or I just type certain things up because I need to have backups, because that can never happen again. But the other thing I'd say for someone who's learning to journal is it is okay, and in fact it's preferable to say in your journal, I did not feel like journaling today. And don't journal other than that, because if you say, I did not feel like journaling today, at least you're showing the discipline and willpower to actually do the thing that you're not doing it, but you're remembering. Again, I wanted to see there's time for a few more. Yeah, digital is good. One of the apps I currently use is called Day One. and it's for iOS as well as Mac stuff. I don't know about what's going on Windows stuff. I haven't really looked into that. But there are many different digital platforms, and there are many things, and there are many ways you could, do both. I do transcribe some things. So anybody have any other questions or interesting topics? I know this is different for everyone. It's different for me. This is not a format I'm used to, although I'm kind of not minding this format. This is not bad. I'm definitely missing the voices popping up and asking audio questions, but I mean, if it was Crowley, he would open up his journal and say, did X amount of Y drug, don't feel like journaling today, ate a lot of oysters, something like that. But yeah, snorted ether, don't want to journal, did heroin, don't want to eat, There's a lot of Crowley jokes. I mean, for those who don't know, most Thelemites like Aleister Crowley for what he gave us, which was the holy books of Thelema, his writing. It's not like we are absolutely, Crowley worshippers. And one of the funny stories I'll say, and I will answer the question about astral. I was in Florida like maybe 3 or so years ago, maybe it was 4, I can't remember anymore. COVID is making time pass very strangely. And the fact that OTO is not operational fully is, we've got remote stuff going on, and high props to everyone for keeping remote stuff going. But for someone like myself who spent somewhere in the neighborhood of, 50% of like my life doing OTO stuff, because I traveled a lot. When I wasn't doing OTO stuff locally, I was traveling. It would not have been uncommon for me to be celebrating the Gnostic Mass 4 to 6 weeks in a row, because I would travel across the United States. And so, but the funny story that comes from that is a number of years ago, I was in Florida, and there was a set of initiations going on, and then it happened to be near Aleister Crowley's birthday, which we call tongue-in-cheek. It's not an official holiday, Crowleymas. And there's a person, it was a member's house in Florida, and everyone's saying happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, Aleister Crowley. And then at the very end, everyone said, fuck you, Crowley, which is pretty much the thing. No one's Crowley worshiping. No, the OTO does not do astral meetings. The OTO is a actual fraternal society. The OTO is my family. And that may seem a little bit strange to people who are not in the order, but to those who are actually in the order, the OTO is our family. And that requires actually knowing people in person. No, I have not. No. The furthest I've gone for OTO is Canada and Mexico. So yeah, the Globetrotters have me beat. Is it possible to connect with someone in the astral? It is. The question there is going to become, first of all, what is the astral? Many people don't quite understand what that is, but each of our bodies has different energy layers, essentially. There's the astral, the etheric, and things like that. And each one of us, if you're going to talk, like a few weeks ago, I did one on my Discord, a full astral projection class. And, the idea there, and the way Crowley described it in his notes, essentially is our internal astral is essentially a place we can go and explore our own little world for ourselves. So everyone has their own individual astral, and then there's a shared astral. Just like we all have our individual world. Like if I was sitting in a dark room right now by myself, it'd be pretty easy for me to imagine a flying purple dragon in the middle of the room. But if I've got 10 people in the room, less so. And that's because we share this shared reality in a sense that we can connect and discuss things with each other. If I was asleep right now having a really cool lucid dream, I could control everything, but I can't affect the real world. If I'm not lucid dreaming, I can't control anything, and it just goes crazy, but I can't affect the world. And so, Shady Grady got Minerval scheduled. I don't know who you are based on that the name. Do I know you, or are you somebody I don't know personally? Shady Grady, where are you getting your Minerval, if you don't mind telling us? I assume United States, but just curious. There's only a couple bodies that I'm aware of in the US that have Minervals. I know New Orleans has Minervals scheduled. I think California does. I'm not really sure who else is doing them right now. That's why I asked, in case someone else here has any interest, although the fact that you have it scheduled probably means the deadline passed. So, anyways, I promised to end this with a bang, but okay. That's fine. It's really hard sometimes to just know. 93 Zach again. It's sometimes hard for me, and this happens on my Discord as well, where I will see people. Yeah, the U.S. Grand Lodge OTO policy is essentially the same. In order to, oh, okay, cool. In order to attend in-person events, people have to be vaccinated. Yes, I am vaccinated, and yes, people should be vaccinated. My job actually sent out an email a week ago telling every employee, if you don't get vaccinated, find another job. And it's one of the top 30 law firms in the whole country with a lot of employees. So I'm not going to get into vax versus anti-vax at this point, but the OTO position is 93. The OTO position with Grand Lodge is there's a lot that's left to the local level, but of course the encouragement is that anyone who is going to attend an OTO event does have to show vaccine, that they were vaccinated, but nobody keeps the records other than the fact that the person was vaccinated. But we were hoping to get OTO people, we're hoping to get things up and going again soon, and we'll see how quickly that is. But there are some initiations and things going on. Star Sapphire in LA did some private Gnostic masses. So we're going to get there. I started this live stream with the intent of, I didn't really know who was going to join or what was going to happen. But I was going to definitely read the absolute worst, most horrible, and let's just say Crowley's best or worst work of poem. And I say this because I like a lot of Aleister Crowley's poetry. Many people, we recently did a video on Thelemic.tube, which is the YouTube channel for our Discord server, with one of my dear OTO sisters from Oregon, did some in-person video filming of herself in a goat costume. And then I did Hymn to Pan, one of Crowley's poems over that. And that was classy. However, what I'm going to read is something that, although it would not be considered Crowley's best poem ever, it shows just how forward-thinking and ahead of his time he was. And so, because this poem is going to offend people in probably equal measure today as it did in the Victorian era. And the fact that a man can do that deserves props, if you ask me, personally. Because something I write today is probably not going to be, even if I try to be incredibly bad, is not going to be anywhere near as horrible. I mean, back then it was like if a woman showed their wrists at the wrong place, it was a bad thing. So with that, we're going to close this out by reading a poem by Aleister Crowley. And I will point out before I start, this poem is for someone he loved very much. It is crude. It's crude as all hell. It's just as crude as it was in the Victorian era. So, again, if you are young, if you are not at least 18 years of age, or you have a weak stomach, This is the time someone should leave, because we're going to read Leah Sublime live on Facebook and everywhere. Here we go. Leah Sublime. Leah Sublime, goddess above me, snake of the slime, Alostra, love me, our master the devil, prospers the revel, tread with your foot, my heart till it hurt, tread on it put, the smell of your dirt, on my love, on my shame, scribble your name, straddle your beast, my masterful bitch, with your thighs you greased, with the sweat of your itch. Spit on me, scarlet, mouth of my harlot. Now from your wide, raw cunt the abyss, spend sprouting the tide of your sizzling piss. In my mouth, O my whore, let it pour, let it pour. You stale like a mare, and fart as you stale. Through the stagged wet hair, you spout like a whale. Splash the manure and piss from the sewer, down to the quick with your tooth on my lip, and your hand on my prick with a feverish grip. My life as it drinks, how your breath stinks. Your hand, O unclean, your hand that has wasted my love in obscene black masses have tasted. Your soul, it's your hand, feel my prick stand. Your lifetimes from lewd little girl to mature, worn whore that is chewed, your own pile of manure. Your hand was the key to now you frig me too. Rub all over much of your cunt on me, Leah. Cunt, let me suck all your glued gonorrhea. Cunt without end, amen, till you spend. Cunt, you have harbored all dirt and disease in your slimy, unbarbered, loose hole with its cheese and its monthless and pox. You chewer of cocks. Cunt, you have sucked up pricks you squirt. Out fetuses fucked till bastards you blurt. Out of into space, spend on my face, rub all your gleed away. Envenom the arrow, may your pox eat away. Me to the marrow, cunt, you have got me. I love you, to rot me, spend again, lash me. Leah, one spasm, scream to splash me, slime of the chasm, choke me with splith of your sow-bowies filth, stab your demonic smile into my brain, soak me in cognac, cunt and cocaine, sprawl on me, sit, on my mouth, Leah, shit. Shit on me, slut, creamy the curds that drip from your gut, greasy the turds. Dribble your dung on the tip of my tongue. Churn on me, Leah. Twist your thighs. Smear diarrhea into my eyes. Splutter out shit from the bottomless pit. Turn to me, chew it. With me, Leah whore. Vomit it, spew it, and lick it once more. We can make lust, drunk on disgust. Splay out your gut. Your asshole, my love. You buggering slut. I know where to shove her. There goes plum, up the fell bitch bum, sack full of skin and bone as I speak. I'll bugger your grin into a shriek. Bugger you slut, bugger you gut. Wriggle you hog, wrench at the pin, wrench at it drag. In half out and in, scream you hog, dirt you, I want to hurt you. Beast lioness, squirt from your cocksucker's hole. Belch out of the dirt from your syphilis soul. Splutter foul words through your supper of turds. May the devil our Lord your soul scribble over with sayings of odor. Call me your lover, slave of the gut, of the arse of the slut. Call me your sewer of spliff and snot. Your fart chewer, sniffer chewer of the shit of your slot. Call me that as you rave. In the rape of your slave, fuck shit, let me come. A lustral fuck I've spent in your bum. Shit, give me the muck from the whore's ass. Slick, dirt of my prick, eat it, you sow. I'm your dog, fuck shit. Swallow it now, rest for a little. Satan, you gave a crown to your slave. I am your phaeton, your belly above you. I swear it by Satan that Leah, I love you. I'm going insane, let's do it again. Now, clearly, this is a special poem. And not because it's necessarily a great poem, but I think when we keep a few things in mind, well, the key here is he really did love her. This was love poetry. And she loved him. So we can't really get into that. But I will say that I found this poem to be fascinating because it is very infrequent that something from the Victorian era is going to be as... Turns out that's the key. That's what I'm getting at, which we'll see in a second. I give Crowley props for this poem for the fact that he is almost as offensive now as he was then. But the thing is, it's important for people to understand that Crowley could have in his lifetime, and he didn't, attempt to make a cult of personality about himself. And Thelemites know who Crowley is. Thelemites own Crowley's good, his bad, and his indifferent. He lived a life that had all of these things. And at many points, he would essentially, the maxim that he would say would be, do as I say, not as I do, which we've all heard. We're not emulating Crowley. We don't want to emulate Crowley. And not just because that poem seemed dirty to people. And I will point out that, yes, that poem was pretty dirty. Even for somebody like myself, who considers myself fairly sexually liberated, etc., there's a lot of gross there, but the key isn't how gross Crowley wanted to be with Leah. The key is that, I wanted to discuss, Aleister Crowley can be a hot topic, sort of a lightning bolt, something that people essentially hear the word and get scared, or hear the word and get freaked out. And someone else is there saying, do you want me to eat shit or die or piss on myself? It's like, you be you. If that's what you want to do, then you should do it. But the entire concept of Thelema is that we are all, every man and every woman is a star, and we should find our true wills. So to the person that asked, if it is your true will to eat shit and die, piss on yourself, find your true will. Find your holy guardian angel, have knowledge and conversation, and do these things. Aleister Crowley was a human being. We are all human beings. I won't speak for everyone. Maybe there's some non-humans here. But like any person, Crowley had, his own faults and failings. He acknowledged some of them and not others. But for me, and this is important for me, is without Thelema, I'd be dead. I would be dead 2 times over at least without Thelema. And the Book of the Law in particular has saved my life a number of times. And for those that know any of my personal backstory, they'll understand some of that. And 93 Naomi, I judged Aleister Crowley a little less harshly than some, because the holy books of Thelema, especially the Class A books like the Book of the Law and Liber 65, etc., are exactly how a person should judge this work. Judge the work by what he produced on paper. Read his writing. Test his systems. See if they work for you. Crowley didn't ask for anyone to follow him blindly. In fact, quite the opposite. He wanted people to think for themselves. That is what the OTO wants. Any of the OTO members are. You should think for yourselves. Liber itself says, act passionately, think rationally, be thyself. The entire, without Thelema and the OTO and the... right back at you, man. I'm talking to my brother, Zach here. I would have been dead many times before I even met you without Thelema. But, it just comes, I remember really, and I'm not going to embarrass you or anything, but I remember a particular moment after we went to Massathon together. And I don't know if you ever knew this, Zach, but you made me cry. And I still remember something that you said after Massathon about your passion And you said something along the lines of, I essentially, I'm going to deacon, I'm going to priest, I'm going to do all these things, and my mother's going to come and see and be proud of me. And I just cried. And, for those that don't understand, I don't know how many people here are understanding what's going to go on, is going on here, but I'm talking about OTO Gnostic Mass. Good. I was crying good. I was inspired. I was overjoyed. It was seeing the passion and being part of, that was a good drive we had. We just for the people that don't know, Consu OTO in Vegas went, Massathon. It's a event that happens in Star Sapphire in LA, where there are a bunch of Gnostic masses back to back. And people put, different teams put on the Gnostic Mass over and over, back to back. Globetrotter, I'm sorry for you feeling dirty. You should probably develop a filter. I'm sorry for that. You should go take a shower. But no, Massathon was great, and it was a crazy drive through a blizzard. I remember the car almost went into oblivion, and I kept us alive. But no, that was a touching moment because of what you said at the end of it. It's always stuck with me. But my point here is I'm trying to say a thing, which is bash on Crowley all you want. Many OTO members and many Thelemites do the best bashing of Crowley because we know the most about him. But and he had his faults. But whether he wrote a dirty poem, or he was deemed by the UK press the evilest man ever alive, or he's an evil Satanist, or what other stuff that people are going to say, I will make a bet with people, which is this. I don't fear knowledge. And that's Liber Libre again, is don't fear knowledge. So if somebody comes up to me and says, hi, I'm a Pentecostal, or I'm a fill in the blank, you could make up a religion or something. Do you want to read my whatever? I might not want to, but am I scared to read it? No. Am I scared to try it and see what happens? No. That's the scientific method. And the scientific method is the method of science, the aim of religion. That's scientific illuminism. That's Thelema. On the other hand, if somebody is scared of Thelema because of Crowley, whether it's because he was a perv or because he, maybe sometimes was a womanizer, despite also to the very contrary being very much ahead of his time with women's rights. He was a complex individual, but I say, give the guy a bit of a break because we are all human. We all make some mistakes. He did a lot, and judge him by his works. And so, I would encourage people to read Crowley. I would encourage people to try doing some of the ritual work seriously on their own. So what is this person saying? Tell me something seriously because you're smart, obviously. What was that message of the poem? The message of the poem, first of all, thank you for acknowledging I'm smart. I really needed that. Pat on the shoulder. I'm just kidding. That was a love poem. Crowley was writing somebody he was deeply in love with, a love poem. That's also true. It may seem extreme to you, and I'm not even literally saying Crowley did this. He probably did. But the point is, we don't each get to decide what is somebody else's thing, right? And so just like some people might not like even anal sex, but it was a love poem. That was the message. It was literally a love poem. No doubt, but I don't believe in it. What don't you believe in? Buddha? Is that what we're getting into? Because I'm getting stuff crossed here. Globetrotter, what is it you don't believe in? I would also, while we're waiting to hear back from Globetrotter about what Globetrotter doesn't believe in, I would actually go on record of saying, belief is dangerous. One who believes doesn't think. One who believes does not test. Faith is completely dangerous. Faith is even more reckless than belief. If you have faith in things, then you're just guessing. If you have belief, at least you think you have a basis. The difference of what I'm saying is one should base things on experience. Much like a scientist. Experiment. Figure things out. Don't just believe something because someone told you. Experience it. Then you can have an actual rational basis to know a thing is a thing. So what is... Well, I have no beliefs, so you're not going to understand my beliefs. I believe nothing. I test everything. I'm a scientist. Well, as it turns out, I happen to be an attorney, and I know case law. So if you live in the United States, I could actually tell you if it's pornographic, based on case law, because I'm an attorney. The law in the United States for determining whether something is pornographic or obscene is based on A, the local audience, and B, it's the, believe it or not, the judges have it. It's called the judges, I know it when I see it test. So you get a bunch of old judges who are like 70 or something, and they'll know the porn when they see it. I'm sure they will. But they need to see it all first, in detail. Right, I mean, breaking taboos is a big deal. Here's the thing. Crowley did specifically, one of the big things that he taught was to find the things that we're repulsed by. If you're repulsed by something, you should endeavor to unite yourself with that thing that you are repulsed by. And it's because, why are you repulsed by something? No. I'm not a nihilist at all, although Nietzsche is okay. I don't believe in anything because I'm not just literally cribbing what I was taught by people in life. I am a scientist. I come up with a hypothesis, I test, I journal every single day, and then I experience things. And the things I experience are the things that I come to understand as true. I don't need belief to know what's true. I need experience to know what's true. Experience. Not faith, not belief, not because grandma told me or mommy told me or a book told me. Experience. Go out and, find life yourself. But the thing is, if you believe you know something, do you investigate that thing? If you think for sure you understand something, do you look into it? Do you explain? Do you dive in? Do you try to figure it out? It's not a matter of being a nihilist. It's a matter of being a realist. It's a matter of coming to the understanding that there are things that this world doesn't quite understand. Science is very great. I don't have a problem with a lot of, science, but there are things I have seen in my life that are absolutely not explainable by science. Understand why you are repulsed and know thyself. Correct. Maybe the reason you're repulsed is because something is dangerous. Maybe the reason, like for example, feces can be poisonous. So feces repulsion maybe makes sense. But if you look deeper into other things, many people are repulsed. I used to be repulsed by spiders. I was terrified of spiders for a lot of my life, and now I'm okay with spiders. Do I want to sleep with a bunch of spiders? No, but I don't need to be terrified of them. But the idea is that experience, the Book of the Law says experience is, life is pure joy, essentially. And the reason why someone picks a very particular thing versus another thing and says, this is good, this is bad, this is tasty, this isn't. And then you look at different people, it's like one person's tasty of vanilla ice cream is someone else's gross because they like chocolate. And so, even if you took it just to food, some people are repulsed by certain foods. Maybe it's your favorite food ever, but you just haven't tried it or you had one bad experience. So, person says, the laws of physics only change at upper levels. Yeah, that was my first degree was physics, so pretty sure I understand that. Physics, computer science, law. Indeed. Sir Isaac Newton also had, I won't go there. What are you saying about Sir Isaac Newton? Yes, actually, that's pretty much how this works. It's indeed exactly how this works. I am repulsed by everything that doesn't repulse me. What? Oh, sweet. I'm not really sure what this, the laws of physics only change at upper levels. That's not really true. The laws of physics change very dramatically from what are Newtonian, which is basically fake physics, down to, the lower level. I mean, there's macro and micro, just like ritual magic, macro and micro. We've got quantum mechanics, and then we've got, Newtonian. And they don't actually work together, so because there's no unified model of physics yet, although they're getting close with the standard model of particle stuff and string theory, but that's not really about this talk. So with that, I didn't expect to have a lot of people. Look, I came on here to do a poem considered the most dirty poem Crowley ever wrote. Some people told me I was crazy to be doing this, and maybe I am, but I think I was trying to make a point. With that, I would actually say that, because we would really appreciate anybody who hasn't seen it. If you want to, talk more, come check out our Discord server. I'm going to put the link one more time. A lot of the people in the chat are from my Discord server. But we have the largest Thelemic Discord server on Earth. I think we're up to like some stupid number of 1,100 people or something like that. And also check out our YouTube channel. The YouTube has, the live streams are mostly once a week on the Discord, but we also chat a lot. So on the YouTube, you'll find things from videos to writing, all sorts of things. Is there anything else? No, Barbara Bush was not Crowley's daughter. That's not even correct anyway, but no. It's called a conspiracy theory and not a good one. Yeah, well, we should hang out sometime, to be fair. I've COVID plus all the shit that's going on in my life. I have been absolutely for those that don't know, in the last year and a half, I've and I'm not whining, but I've gone through COVID isolation, my job stuff. I've had a couple major surgeries, and the rest of my life essentially all fell apart at once. So, but yeah, I mean, I've been missing a lot of the, for anyone who doesn't know, because most wouldn't, the building I'm in right now for a while was actually the local OTO's temple. So we had Gnostic Mass here and other things like that. And so during that time period, we had tons of people here at all the time. It was a lot of fun. Before that, it was just my temple, and after that, it was just my temple. But yeah, the chamber echoes with want for more. But thank you everyone for joining me tonight. And I wanted to just again say thank you very much. I appreciate it. This is a complete experiment, and thank you for participating in this wacky experiment. Until next time, love is the law.